Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Now, Deontay Wilder has clarified whether he will be stepping aside to allow Dillian Whyte to take his mandatory position to fight Tyson Fury and take some step aside money, go and fight someone else and learn how to box basically. He said that he's not going to do that. Co-manager Shelley Finkel has said that the Fury fight will happen this year. Deontay Wilder will not be stepping aside. Deontay Wilder wants that third fight. Now, this is not great for Deontay Wilder. I know he gets that rematch and it's good that he has that in there, but ultimately he shouldn't be taking this rematch. Or, he should. You've got to get back in there and try and win your belt back if you have the opportunity. But realistically, he can't do what Anthony Joshua done. Anything is possible, yes. But Deontay Wilder has no boxing basics to go back to like AJ did for Ruiz. Because in that fight with Ruiz, Anthony Joshua was outboxing him. He was winning the fight. Then got caught with a silly shot that he didn't see coming, that he did not recover from. Deontay Wilder, it was different. It was a 7-round beatdown. And I know many people say that Anthony Joshua's was the same. It was a 7-round beatdown from Ruiz. Well, it wasn't. It really wasn't. Anthony Joshua was in control, got caught with a shot that he did not see coming. He even dropped Ruiz. So it wasn't the same. Anthony Joshua was winning that fight, got caught with a silly shot. Deontay Wilder was never winning that fight with Tyson Fury. And Anthony Joshua had those basics to go back to. Deontay Wilder does not. So it would be beneficial for Deontay Wilder to step aside and say, okay, I'm going to wait. I'm going to take this fight or that fight, get ready for Tyson Fury, let Dillian Whyte have his opportunity. But I guess you have to kind of admire Deontay Wilder for getting straight back in there. Fair play to him. Trying to become the 5th person in history, alongside AJ, alongside Floyd Patterson, Lennox Lewis and Muhammad Ali, to regain a heavyweight world title in an immediate rematch. So, fair play to Deontay Wilder. I just think that it's going to be too soon. I think that Tyson Fury will be better with that Kronk style, and I believe it ends earlier than last time. And that's not to say that Deontay Wilder cannot win this fight. He can. There's a way that Deontay Wilder does win this fight because he has clearly shown that he can hurt Tyson Fury. He has clearly shown that he has dynamite in that right hand. It's just landing that shot in the right place at the right time. Can he do that against Tyson Fury? Well, yeah, he can. It's possible. Anything can happen in heavyweight boxing. All it takes is one punch. AJ Ruiz is a prime example. AJ in control, caught with a silly shot, changed the course of the fight, no going back from then on. So that can happen. It's just whether Deontay Wilder is skillful enough and can plan to make that happen, because it's not just going to be a big punch that lands against Tyson Fury. He's going to have to set it up, and what he must do is stop Tyson Fury from just walking forward and having his own way, because that is what Tyson Fury done last time, and it's more complicated than that. He didn't just rush forward, grab hold of Deontay Wilder, pull him around, punch him and all of that. It was more complicated. Tyson Fury put in a very well put together game plan and executed it perfectly. So it's not just about walking forward and rushing into Deontay Wilder and smothering him. It was clever, educated pressure. Really, really well planned by his coach, obviously, Sugar Ray Hill, and really, really well executed by Tyson Fury. And Deontay Wilder did not know what to do. He became very predictable from very early on. He was eager to land. Tyson Fury knew that. So Tyson Fury knew that if he put Deontay Wilder on the back foot, that right hand, even if it did land, would not have the same kind of power in it that it would if Deontay Wilder was on the front foot, like last time. So ultimately, if you put a front foot fighter on the back foot, like Tyson Fury did, then the balance goes completely. Remember, Tyson Fury said that he had to change his balance by going on the front foot as opposed to going on the back foot. So in that case, Tyson Fury had to change his balance so that his weight was on his back foot and he was transferring that weight forward, punching through the target. Deontay Wilder normally does the same, but in this fight, he was forced on the back foot, meaning that Deontay Wilder was placed in a situation that he had never been in before. Going on the back foot, his balance changes completely. Tyson Fury had prepared for that change in balance and distribution of weight. Deontay Wilder did not. So he could not get the power in those shots. Many of them did land. 5 or 6 of those right hands landed on Tyson Fury, but they took no effect because Deontay Wilder's balance just wasn't there. He wasn't transferring his weight properly from the back foot to the front foot in order to get the power into that shot. And ultimately, Tyson Fury was always moving backwards or moving his head away when those shots landed. He saw everything coming from Deontay Wilder. And as I said, from very early on, Deontay Wilder became very predictable very early because ultimately he could only do one thing. He was jabbing, going to the left, moving backwards in straight lines at some point. So Tyson Fury was just walking him down, cutting off the ring. Anytime they got in close, Tyson Fury was locking him up, and Tyson Fury always had his hips back and bent as well. So he was willing to work on the inside. Tyson Fury ultimately was the one trying to have an inside fighting game in that fight, despite being the bigger man. Deontay Wilder stood bolt upright and did not want to work on the inside. And ultimately, Tyson Fury was placing his weight on Deontay Wilder, making him more and more tired every time that happens. If you have a 19-stone guy leaning on you, that's going to take a lot out of your legs. Not a 40-pound suit, Tyson Fury, a 19-stone man who is also pommeling you, is going to take a lot of energy from Deontay Wilder. The suit had nothing to do with it. It was the fact that Tyson Fury was just so physically imposing that Deontay Wilder could not deal with it. Deontay Wilder ran out of ideas very, very quickly, and Tyson Fury knew that. Tyson Fury knew there was a pattern emerging with Deontay Wilder, and he figured it out very, very quickly. And that was the key to Tyson Fury winning the fight. If Deontay Wilder can add more dimensions to what he does, then it's going to make it more difficult for Tyson Fury. But ultimately, I believe the same thing will ensue in December, November, whenever they fight. It will be this year, confirmed by Shelley Finkel. So the fight is going to happen this year. But does Deontay Wilder have enough time? Has he been learning in the time away from the ring? Well, I think that maybe, yeah, he has been, because we haven't heard too much from Deontay Wilder other than he's training hard, cutting out junk food. So he's doing all the right things. It's just whether he can learn what he needs to learn during the time he has. It's going to be very difficult, but one thing he does need to do is work on his movement, work on his distance as well, because he was always out of range. Tyson Fury made it so, and he always done the same thing. As I said before, jab, move to the left, or retreat in straight lines. What he needs to do is change direction, judge his distance a lot better, change height as well, and start shooting shots to the chest of Tyson Fury, because he's not going to stop him coming forward any other way. Tyson Fury moves his head extremely well for a big guy, but he cannot move his body as fast as he can move his head. So that being said, what Deontay Wilder needs to do is shoot shots to the chest or body of Tyson Fury to stop him from walking forward, because Tyson Fury was allowed to do what he pleased in there with Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder did nothing to stop it. So what he needs to do in this third fight is stop Tyson Fury from having his own way every single time he wants to. Tyson Fury dictated the pace of the fight, he dictated the distance of the fight, and he made Deontay Wilder do what he wanted him to do. Now, the best distance for Deontay Wilder is not in close. It's out on that long range, so he can set up that right hand. And you can see how far Deontay Wilder draws that right hand back. He really does draw it back and punches through the target. But Deontay Wilder really does load up with that right hand, and Tyson Fury can often see it coming. That is why he was able to plan for it and move his distance back, obviously use his feet, create that distance so that Deontay Wilder was not really punching through the target. Tyson Fury was taking like the end of the punch where the power is taken out of it. So Deontay Wilder did not have that same power where Tyson Fury was obviously moving back, but not just moving back, moving to the side, so that his feet were just outside of Deontay Wilder's. So he was reaching with that right hand, as opposed to, as I said, punching through the target. He is reaching over his own body, meaning that all the power is taken out of the punch. It's still a powerful punch. You can see the marks on Tyson Fury's face after, but still, the power was taken out of the punch by Tyson Fury using his distance, using his feet. Deontay Wilder needs to dictate the distance in the third fight. That is his only chance. Dictate the distance, and then he has a chance in this fight. If Tyson Fury dictates the distance, going in at that mid-range and close range as well, then Tyson Fury will win the fight. Deontay Wilder has no chance at that distance, because Deontay Wilder does not work well on the inside. He does not work well on the back foot. Ben Davison, Tyson Fury's previous trainer, said that Deontay Wilder does fight well off the back foot. I completely disagree. He does not. His knockouts come when he's not going on the back foot. He takes a step back, moves into the space, and allows his opponent to walk forward. As soon as they lift their front foot to move forward, he shoots. Again, creating that distance where it's a long range and he can punch through the target. His opponent has given up their positioning. So ultimately, that gives him the opportunity to land that powerful punch. It's not boxing off the back foot, it's moving back into the space, allowing his opponent to move into the space in front of him and give up their positioning. That is when he shoots that shot, and that is why it is so devastating. It's not all about the power in the shot, it's also about the way he sets it up and how devastating it lands, punching through the target, as I said. Tyson Fury did not allow him to do that because he was constantly on the front foot, pushing Deontay Wilder back. He could not step back into the space and draw that right hand back because Tyson Fury did not allow him to have the distance, the time, the space in order to do that. So all in all, Deontay Wilder doesn't necessarily need to change a lot about his game plan and the way he fights in the third fight with Tyson Fury. He doesn't have the time to anyway, but what he must do is dictate the distance and the tempo of the fight. If he loses that early on, then the fight is beyond his reach. Anyway, guys, what are your thoughts on this? Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 3, likely in December. Guys, drop your thoughts in the comments below, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe if you are new. Thanks, guys.